Hey everyone, I have a very special show for you today. This is the third interview that I recommended on the daily financial news this morning. And this is, of course, Brian Lebo. How you doing, man?
Great, man. How you doing today?
I'm always excited to talk to you. We get to talk Vegas real estate, especially single family homes, which is on fire. And now we have the reality that, you know what, Vegas, what most people think of Vegas, the strip, it's it's in a little bit of trouble and it's crumbling a little bit. So let's catch people up on what's going on the strip because I think that's what most people think of across the country, and then we can pivot more to Las Vegas real estate. So give our audience a figure about what's going on the strip.
Yeah, the strip has been a pretty hot topic lately. For most of you that are out of town, you probably don't have any idea as far as what's going on. Here, as locals, obviously, we are very well plugged in. The truth is most people that live in Las Vegas, we don't actually go to the strip very often. It's more of an occasion for us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like people in Los Angeles. When you live in LA, you don't really get to the beach that often. I mean, you got all these millions of people and no one ever makes it to the beach. So it's the same thing here in Las Vegas. But unfortunately, what's happened is we've had just an absurd amount of crime on the strip. And,
Mm-hmm.
when you think about it, have you ever seen an article ever at any point in your life that ever said someone overdosed on the strip in Las Vegas, right? Like, I've lived here for 30 years. I've never ever heard or seen such a thing in the media, when the reality is it happens every single night. It just gets suppressed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's been impossible to suppress is the crime and the type of crime. Um, Even in the media, every single day we've had a shooting, stabbings, and that's on the strip. And we're talking about it in the last pod. The Aria Hotel. It's a very upscale hotel. If you've never been there, caters more to like a business type crowd. There was a shooting right there at Valet. Guy pulls up a Maybach, boom, shooting right there at Aria. A few days later, there's a stabbing in a hotel hallway at a timeshare on the south end of the strip. That same night, a 40 to 50-year-old male got into it with security guards, brandished a weapon, and security ended up having to shoot him after he wouldn't stand down. So this has been going on for quite some time. I've only been to the strip one time since COVID started, and I had heard all the grumblings, but I took it with a grain of salt. And sure enough, when I went there, yeah, the allegations were pretty true. It's just very, very different crowd. It's not, especially in some of these upscale casinos.
Mm-hmm.
As you head north on the strip, when you go down to like downtown is so much fun. I actually love downtown, but here you have a really nice upscale bar, and then you walk around the corner and you've got homeless people and crackheads, and it's a different
It's a
kind
different
of
vibe.
feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you got to really stick to the concourse, if you will. So you expect that when you go downtown. It's kind of like the roll of the dice, if you want to say. But on the strip, we've always protected the strip. Like it's
Yes.
about as safe as you're going to get. But the problem is when we started lowering hotel rooms to try to get business, our sheriff said $30 rooms bring $30 people. And so we've been dealing with a rash of really bizarre things where, yeah, when you can catch a flight to Vegas for $50 from Detroit, and then you can get a room at the Wynn Hotel for $80 a night.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't have a lot of money and you ever wanted to go to Vegas, this is your opportunity. So, I mean, you can't blame people that are from a poor demographic from wanting to capitalize on the opportunity that we provided them.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, that's what we're dealing with. So we've had a much lower clientele descending upon Las Vegas. And along with that, we've had gang activity from Los Angeles. They're coming in and putting 10 guys in a hotel room. So as a result, Vegas has been forced to make a few countermeasures. So one, the Wynn Hotel just came out and said, all right, first off, we're raising our room rates. So they raised their room rates. So they're back up to like $399 a night. The problem is the more you raise those room rates, the less occupancy you're going to have.
Yep.
So the Wynn also owns the Encore Resort.
Mm-hmm.
That's their sister property. Well, as a result of raising these room rates, the occupancy levels dropped, and there's just not a lot of money being spent, especially during the week.
Yep.
So recently, we discussed the Encore Hotel. they're shutting down. Now they're only open 3 nights a week. That's it. Just 3 days a week. It's not worth even being open the other days. They've added security measures. You have to present your room key just to get to the elevator bank. They've added metal detectors. Everyone has to get waved down before you enter the property. The craziest one is the Cosmopolitan. I'm pretty sure that's where the video was. There's a huge viral video of this big fight where
that was
broke
the
out at the
Cosmo.
Cosmo.
Yeah.
So as a result, and this is crazy, now the Cosmopolitan on Friday nights and Saturday nights, you can't even enter the hotel. You can't enter the hotel unless you have a hotel reservation or you have a reservation at one of the restaurants.
Yep.
So how much business are they turning down? How much business are those other, short order restaurants or your hotel bars? Everyone likes to cruise through the Cosmo. It's a great jump off spot.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to happen anymore. So they're going to restrict access to kind of keep the riffraff out. So yeah, there's definitely some changes going on, and obviously this really affects the economics of the Strip and employment. So I've been talking extensively about the economic impact that we're having from an unemployment standpoint, which is why housing is so bizarre, because unemployment is poor and it's getting worse. So yesterday, the Tropicana Hotel announced that they're laying off 838 employees. Also, the Paris Hotel came out and said that Mon Ami Gabi, very high-end, well-known restaurant, they're laying off, I think, 83 employees. The Eiffel Tower restaurant is laying off 95 employees. So, there's continuous waves of this happening. So it's going to be very difficult. And more so, we're heading into the time of year where less families tend to come to Vegas for visiting, which is when we get bolstered by convention activity. But there's no conventions. Everyone's pulled out. Mm-hmm. So we're in for a very, very tough run. And on top of that, from an unemployment standpoint, we were the very last state in the entire union, the last state. So I know in California, you guys complain about Gavin Newsom, but our governor Sisolak's in some hot water here. And there's no excuse to be the last state to apply. So we're the last state to apply for the extra $300 a week. No one's received it yet. And we aren't even getting the full amount that we requested because we were the last state and they're out of money.
The money's gone.
Yeah. So, we've got some compound fractures going on here. So, you've got people that have already reached the end of their unemployment. They're on their 13-week extension. They haven't received the back payment of the $300. And I think that's only for like 3 weeks.
Yep.
And now you have this whole other wave of layoffs that are happening. And from a union standpoint, these hotels are smart, and, unions are not their friend by any means. So what a lot of these hotels are doing is they're taking advantage of this opportunity because they furloughed a lot of union employees and now they're laying them off, which gives them the opportunity to get rid of some very long-term employees that maybe aren't as motivated, that are making top level money. So when they do get ready to bring people back, they're not going to bring back. If you're making $23 an hour to clean this casino floor, why would I bring you back?
Yeah.
When I can bring back someone for $15 an hour. So it's a lot of people are not going to get their jobs back when the hiring resumes. So.
Wow. There's so much in that. Do you have any idea where Vegas occupancy is on average, casino collections? I've seen some scary numbers, like casino gambling's down 85 to 87% year on year, and occupancies blended across the casinos are somewhere in the 30s. Are those numbers you're hearing as well?
Yeah, those are pretty similar, and Vegas occupancy levels are always very high.
Yeah.
I remember years ago when MGM was selling condos, they were releasing the numbers, and the MGM, the worst ever is like 93%, but they're usually running like 97 to 103%.
Exactly. Many hotels are over 100. Yeah.
Yeah, no, most hotels book over 100 and they have sister properties. So if they really do get impacted, then they just shuttle you over to us. And that's Wynn. Yeah. So if Wynn gets overbooked, they'll put you right next door at Encore. Yeah. But yeah, we're seeing 50% occupancy levels, even on the weekend.
Wow. Just play this out. And again, we're in a bad spot. We, meaning Vegas, is in a bad spot. crime, safety, the news media, right? Used to suppress it, hide it, whatever. It was kind of a backroom deal. Now it's kind of out in front. You're probably scaring away future visitors, I would guess. Probably conventions are looking at it going like, I'm not going to be first. I mean, is Vegas signing up for a 6, 7, 8, 9 months of more pain? I mean, I don't see where the pain stops.
Yeah, I mean, look, 6 months from now is April.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's a pretty realistic number. I mean, somewhere between March and April is the hopeful timeline that we can kind of get back to normalcy, have a vaccine, et cetera.
Yeah.
My personal fear is just that some of these conventions, it's one of those deals where, so it's like you've been with the same girl forever,
Yep.
and then you decide to take a break. You just want to take a break.
Yeah.
And then you get a taste of freedom and you're like, you know what? This isn't nearly as bad as I had feared this was going to be. And I didn't realize how much I was putting up with.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I'm good. And I don't want to go back.
Yeah.
Now
I'll stay virtual. Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, we might have some virtual conventions. Obviously from an economic standpoint, that makes sense. But I mean, like the National Finals Rodeo.
Yeah.
It does seem a little bit odd that National Finals Rodeo is in Vegas, not Texas. Well, this year they're going to Texas. So what if they decide, hey, you know what?
Texas ain't bad.
We had a great convention out here and I don't know where it is, maybe Dallas. What if they decide that, hey, we had a way better turnout, things are better, we're going to keep it moving.
You're right.
So, I mean, there's a possibility that we could lose some potential conventions or we could lose them to Orlando.
Yeah.
Other places that are convention heavy.
Yeah, the bubble, right? The NBA bubble. I mean, one of the things early on, Vegas was an option, and then they chose Disneyland, right, or Disney World, or whatever it is.
Yeah, So what happened with I'm a huge hoops fan, huge, and a big Laker fan. So condolences in Sacramento. but it was between Las Vegas and Orlando. And in Las Vegas, they were going to use Mandalay Bay because Mandalay Bay has just a massive convention center space.
Yep.
And then they could basically house everyone within Mandalay Bay. So that was their idea. Who knows the real reason why, but one of the reasons why they were concerned is because trying to keep everyone in a bubble in Vegas, there's just too many knuckleheads. They were afraid there's going to be too many breaches. Whereas when you're in Disneyland, they were able to have more protocols, but we could have housed it. We had the space to have the courts.
You also just had the extra,
the stigma.
Yeah. There's lots of other things to do in Vegas, adult things in Vegas that not really in Disneyland or Disney World.
Exactly. And so we lost for pretty obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But I mean, even the NBA, there's discussions. They just pushed back the free agency to November 18th. We were hoping that maybe we'd have the NBA for Christmas. It's never going to happen.
Not a chance.
Earliest will be February, and more realistic is March.
Yeah, I'm a Warriors season ticket holder, so I'm thinking it's going to be March, and they may not even have fans. They may not have fans.
So you guys are in a very unique position because you took out an extra $300 million loan against the equity in your property, which you had already taken. Then you took out more money from Goldman Sachs. So because that arena is such a moneymaker, I mean, right now you're buried in debt because you can't earn any income off of it, but you're printing money out of the Chase Center. Yeah. So, I mean, you guys will be all right when things resume, but for smaller markets that rely, the problem for you is I think the Chase Center makes $100 million estimated income. It basically pays your entire payroll just for the ticket sales in the arena. That doesn't include the television rights and ancillary income. So, obviously the players want to play, but everyone's affected as far as the NBA is concerned because
for sure
the salary cap is dictated by the amount of revenue that's created by the NBA. Yep. And if you can't have fans in the seats, no one is going to make money. No. So that's, a whole nother topic, a whole nother issue. But I mean, we're all affected, but as far as the tourism aspect, unfortunately right now.
So when does this connect with real? I mean, when you think of, and again, I have no clue, right? The average person who's getting laid off at the restaurants and the different hotel jobs, are they usually renters or owners, or do you have a guess?
It really just depends. I mean, it can go both ways. One, it just depends on where you're willing to live.
Okay.
And it also depends on when you purchased,
That's true.
I mean, some, years and years and years ago, I used to work at Costco. I opened up a Costco out here, and one of the employees that worked for me and at Costco, he's an older gentleman, and he and his wife, he works at Costco. She's a banquet server. They make normal middle class type of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they own a 3,000 square foot home in the best part of the city because they purchased that home in 2000 when the prices were pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
So they got a great house in a great neighborhood, a mortgage that they can afford. And, I saw him about a week or two ago when I was getting gas, and we chatted, and he told me, he said, man, we're getting pretty scared because before the pandemic, they were flush. They were doing some remodeling to the house. Life was peachy. His wife got furloughed. There's no telling when she's going back.
Mm-hmm.
Unemployment's done. And now they're at the point where there's no savings. Savings is depleted. Now they're digging into the 401k.
Wow.
And so, these are responsible people that were older. So, I mean, you've got people who, a lot of people don't have retirement, don't have savings. And again, coming out of quarantine, everything was bizarre, but again, everyone was making $4,000 a month on unemployment.
Yeah.
So between, if you're renting, your rent's likely not that much. And if you own a house, take a forbearance. So that's why we had all these people taking forbearances. So $4,000 a month, you don't have to pay your mortgage. You can get by. In fact, a lot of people I know were actually saving money going,
for sure.
It's not that bad, but you got to remember, it's been a few months since those $4,000 checks stopped coming. So everyone's basically living off of their savings and draining it. And everyone has a breaking point. Mm-hmm. And so my fear is we're getting closer to that breaking point, and these unemployment benefits are ending at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So, that's why the whole eviction is a huge topic out here, because there will be people that will be thrown on the streets. And our eviction moratorium ends actually today.
Oh, wow.
So today is the first day that the moratorium is up. So that's going to be really interesting to see. And let me clarify. I mean, we discussed this a little bit. The eviction moratorium is for non-payment. Any other breach of contract, you can evict for cause. But today's the first day that you can evict for non-payment. I don't know if you're aware, but it's kind of convoluted, but there is, under the CARES Act, they passed, I think about a month ago, no evictions through the end of the year, but there's very specific provisions.
Yeah, I saw that. That's the CDC order.
Exactly. Yep. Sorry. Yeah. The CDC, not the CARES Act. So the governor said, yep, he's not going to extend the eviction. So that's good. But he also blanketed it with the fact that we have the CDC order. So that becomes redundant. We don't need it. The problem is the CDC order, if you read into those guidelines, it's specific and it's vague at the same time. And we don't know how and when people will be able to get through the courts. So how that's going to be handled here in Las Vegas is going to be interesting.
And then did you see the CDC order just came out with a clarification on Monday? Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that. What was the clarification?
Yeah. So what CDC said is you can start evictions now for non-payment. What basically they're clarifying is people were taking it to mean they couldn't start evictions until January 1st. That is not the case. They are saying you can't have a lockout or a sheriff lockout until January 1st. So states like California, who have a 60-day eviction period normally, we're right on the cusp of starting evictions.
Yeah.
I don't know what Vegas is traditionally, but again, what does that mean? You can start evictions, you can do notices, you can post. People are going to get scared. People are going to feel nervous.
It's going to be bad in California. I mean, you already have terrible homelessness in California as it is, and again, like I said, in Las Vegas, I mean, those jobs aren't coming back anytime soon. So, and especially if we don't extend unemployment benefits, I mean, you're going to have people that literally are being evicted and have absolutely no money, which the byproduct of that situation on top of, adding to a homeless problem is high crime. I mean, it's just
this is not a good recipe. I mean, the question I keep asking myself is, when does it affect housing? You're 4 months in a row now, record single family home prices, I believe we've talked
Right.
about. That can't continue, or at least I don't think it continues.
And I'm with you. I mean, we've been defying everything that we thought logic would dictate.
Sure, that's
So
true.
I always reserve the right to go, hey, man,
Hey, I'm wrong. Whatever.
you were wrong. But eventually, logic, eventually it will make sense. What doesn't make sense eventually does make sense. But the issue is, how do we handle? Because we're not going to have an economy that's thriving. So I don't see that changing for at least 6 months.
Yeah.
The question, the main catalyst is really going to be how many people are migrating here from California.
Yeah, that is your saving grace. That is your governor or whoever's in charge of your Vegas tourism. That needs to be the number one thing is work from anywhere, come to Vegas, save money. I mean, I would start doing TV ads and freaking Facebook posts, and you got to get that money coming in just to have a chance.
Yeah.
Remind me about 08. Obviously, no, Vegas real estate collapsed, but I don't recall the Strip really being all that bad. It certainly wasn't like today. I mean, it wasn't horrible, right?
No, but obviously different. Things were bad because of economics, right? And no matter who you were, everyone was affected. This is a little bit different because it's a pandemic, so that really changes the scope of things.
Well, hold on. I mean, hold on. So yeah, I mean, it was a financing problem. People got over their skis. They paid too much. Their incomes didn't matter. I mean, that was 08. But again, I'm going back to employment. Employment never really took a big hit in Vegas, at least the Strip. It did. The Strip unemployment or
construction? Construction was huge. I mean, number one was the Strip and number two was construction.
Okay.
So everything in Vegas just collapsed from within its own weight because we were over. So much of our problem was unique to Las Vegas and Miami. The entire country was hurt. Yeah. But like Texas, in Texas, there was no cash out refinances. They protected their people from themselves.
They did.
Whereas, I mean, if you look at values in like Austin, Texas, a lot of places, they never even really dropped. They were very unaffected because people kept their equity in their homes. They didn't use them as piggy banks. Yeah. And then when you look at Vegas, Phoenix, and Miami, places where we were just booming, the problem is the bigger you are, the harder you fall. And so for us, we were overbuilding properties for phantom buyers. Essentially, everyone was prospecting. Everyone owned 3-4 homes. Yeah. That was never a sustainable plan. So the problem was, all of a sudden you had people that go, oh, well, I'm not going to make money. Let the house go. So that was a problem right there unto itself. But then you have all these people that came under the guise of construction.
I remember, yeah.
And then there's no jobs. And then where are you going to go? A couple of years ago, construction costs went through the roof here because everyone went to Houston to rebuild Houston after the hurricane. So all of a sudden, what was $1 a square foot was $2 a square foot because competition was there. So I think there's very different situations. And then also, Vegas was still able to be conducted back then. So for instance, like right now, one of my really good friends, he runs one of the biggest nightclub chains in Las Vegas, and he's in charge of all the marketing and hiring all their acts. So they're actually able to be solvent, but the reason they're able to be solvent is because instead of paying, DJ Marshmello $1 million for tonight, they're hiring a local Vegas DJ for $500. So they managed to cut their overhead to nothing. So while their income is much smaller, they're also their capital output is nothing either.
Yeah, so at least they've taken care of the burn rate. They're cash flow positive.
Mm-hmm. But here's the problem is if you want to go to a nightclub, you can't just go to a nightclub right now. You have to get a table and you have to stay at your table. You cannot dance on the dance floor.
Wow.
It's crazy, man. And these tables have plexiglass in between you and the other one. So, I mean, I haven't been, but it seems odd to go to a nightclub where you can't go on the dance floor and dance and you're quarantined.
So you're paying to listen to music. That's essentially what you're doing.
Yeah. So very different experience. And again, you come into town, you want to go party tonight. Well, unless you're spending whatever the amount is, I don't even know, $1,000 for your table, $2,000, $3,000, it's a wrap. So again, for a lot of people, Vegas isn't the Vegas that you knew.
Is this the worst economy you've seen in Vegas? Because you've been there forever.
No,
Oh,
I mean,
really?
again, no,
Awesome. That's good news.
2008 to 2011 was just, I mean, right now, like if you go around, it's like nothing happened. I mean, it's really weird. I mean, there's all these underlying problems, there's all this unemployment, but you walk around and its life is pretty much normal.
Okay.
The problem was before, you got to remember, I mean, when you wake up one day and realize that your house is worth half of what it was.
You're right.
And the condos were down to 20 cents on the dollar. So, if you're 65 years old, you're thinking, this is awesome, I'm going to retire. I just got like 2 more years to cash out and move to Florida and I'm great or whatever. And now you realize that not only is that not going to be the plan, but you're going to lose your house.
Yeah.
And, middle-class families that were raising kids and they were in their dream house, suddenly you had to let it go. I mean, it was just,
interesting.
I hope I never see anything like that. I mean, we had a recession in the economy. We had a depression in Las Vegas. So, I mean, there's no tourism. I mean, tourism, I would say, was worse than now.
Really?
Yeah. Well, maybe I shouldn't go that far. I shouldn't go that far. I'll retract that statement. But
okay.
it was bad. No one had money to come to Vegas. So
right. Okay. But
it was,
I still remember conventions. I mean, I still remember going to Vegas for the conventions, right? Yeah. Okay.
We still had the conventions. So that's a huge core.
That was a lifesaver. Yeah.
It was just that the conventions were pretty weak, right?
Remember, yeah. Like, I remember they were definitely lower down. Yeah.
Yeah. Like SEMA show, the car show, we used to have 300 models that would be out there and looking at cars, and all these manufacturers would bring all these exotic cars. And then the year after the recession, it's like, all right, we're going to bring some Toyota Camrys. And,
yes, some entry-level cars.
Yeah, there's like 4 models that are kind of like the third cousin to the models that were there last year. Right, so there was just a lot less money being spent.
Okay.
But again, when you lose all that equity in housing, people just feel poorer. And so people don't spend the same kind of money. So honestly, that was affecting people more than what we're seeing right now.
Well, that's actually a little bit encouraging. I was expecting you to say this is the worst I've ever seen, but again, I'm an outsider and don't know. That's why I reach out and talk to guys like you.
No, it's not. I mean, and people are still, I mean, there's tons of remodeling going on. I mean, people are still spending money. The question is just going to be, what is going to happen once those mortgage forbearances come due in April? Because 80% of people extended. What's going to happen when people get laid off from the Strip and don't have their jobs and run out of savings? What's going to happen there? What's going to happen if Californians don't come here and save us and take all these homes? I mean, there's a lot of questions that we're not going to have answers for some time.
Very cool. Any closing thoughts? Any thoughts as we head into the end of the year? This has been very helpful. This is always eye-opening talking to you.
No, man. I mean, obviously we're going to see what happens with the election. I mean, that's going to be, does anyone have any clue?
No.
We're going to see what happens with the election, and then we'll see how the economy responds, how the Treasury responds. I mean, from an economic standpoint, the biggest question is going to be for us, just because of our disproportionate amount of unemployment, what are we going to be able to do for people on unemployment? That's going to be the major question in Las Vegas. And then, like I said, with the forbearances and with all of that, I think the biggest catalyst right now is going to be how many people are just going to exit out of the state of California, because this is like the #1 destination. Phoenix is like #2.
Yep.
I talked to realtors up in Oregon, Washington. Lots of people from Northern California are just fleeing that way. I think it's like this is like, I forget. It was something like, this was the first time California had a negative 21,000 population. So
yeah, I've been here for 50 years. Yeah, I've been here 50 years. We've really contracted twice. Obviously now being one. The only other time we contracted meaningfully was after the 1989 quake, that 7.1 quake. There was about a 6-month period where people were like, oh, California's going to fall into the ocean, I'm getting out of here. That was the other time. But yeah, this is definitely different. And again, people need to realize the people that are leaving California today, they have jobs, they have income, they are the high net worth individuals. So our tax basis is going to shit. And
Well, look at when we were talking about the ultra high-end luxury.
Yeah,
That's the most disproportionate
it
market of
is.
saturation right now.
It's
You know,
crazy.
when we're for Vegas, $2 million homes, I mean, that's, you know, top 1% of the market. And I mean, we're selling them. And it's not necessarily just people in Vegas that are doing better. It's people coming from California with funny money going, oh,
Yeah,
this
they sold a 1950 one-story ranch that hasn't been updated in years.
that's literally it. I mean, that's literally it. Yeah, you live in the Bay, you're living in 1,300 square feet, and you sell it for 3.2 million, and you buy a mansion here for 1.8 million.
Yeah, and you have money left over to remodel it.
Yeah, and retire. So, I mean, we're going to see a lot of that. And Lord knows what you're going to have to do even more with taxes. The more you lose people, the more you're going to have to raise taxes. So
yeah, California's middle class is going to get taxed to death here very shortly, is my opinion. So, oh man, this is very interesting. How can people follow you? There's got to be Californians that want to buy in Vegas, so they should call you. What should they do?
Please, from California. I'm originally from California. It's better here. So yeah, please visit my website, lebogroup.com, L-E-B as in boy, O, group.com. You can text me 702-257-LEBO, 702-257-LEBO. Yeah, just look me up, Brian Lebo. You'll find me online.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Have a wonderful day. All right. Take care.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. Take care.